Lon, just tell everybody we're about to start.
Okay.
Thank you. Getting a ringing noise.
That's hurry speed.
I know.
Back and forth.
Mr. Larson, you know where your wife is?
Oh, I know.
You have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah, oh, I'm telling you. I go through about 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You should know.
I should know I do. She's probably in their coffin.
Yeah.
She's got a lung problem.
I've heard more people having coughing problems lately.
Yeah. Well, she's had that for,
Hope it's not something in the air or the water.
she's had that for 20 years. You didn't end up getting get that COPD. She went to a doctor back in the mid-90s. She was still smoking a bit, you know, and he says, first. You decided you're gonna give up smoking? She said, smart ass, well, I'll think about it. He says, okay, good, do the record down. Says, you come back when you're ready to quit. She came home and she was, they did this all shit out. I said, well, that's the patient. That wouldn't run very long. You wouldn't work out. There she is. You're holding up the show.
Robert Henry, watch yourself.
I'd like to call the public hearing on the budget to order. On October the 17th, the council had a workshop. We had a workshop and we had 5 people there other than council and reviewed the line item budget. The city manager answered all the questions from the council members on the proposed budget, and there were no changes proposed. What we're here for today, our purpose is to have a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed 2018 budget. No additional public hearings are scheduled. The budget on the agenda to be adopted at the regular council meeting on November the 14th. So we're going to start with the general fund. I'm going to ask the city manager to give a summary of the budget, and then I'm going to ask for anyone who's in opposition to come to the mic and speak, and then those in favor of. So, Lynn, if you would proceed.
Okay, for the general fund, the 2018 budget is based on the rollback rate of 16.110 mils. The rollback rate means the previous year's millage rate minus the millage equivalent of the total net assessed value by reassessments. So reassessments are figured into that, and they come up with a rate, and that is the rollback rate. So that is not a tax increase. Overall, the operating expenditures for the general fund are up approximately $7,000. Capital expenditures are down $374,800. That's between the park and the road paving. For revenue, anticipated revenues are expected to net nearly $10,000 over 2017. mostly due to an increase in the LMIG money to be received from Georgia Department of Transportation. Of course, all that is dependent on the county and Clayton reaching a resolution on their dispute. It is in this year's budget also, and not likely to get it before the end of this year, but there's also $10,000 in motor vehicle tax revenue that we anticipate that over and above what we had budgeted for this year. Local grants are expected to be lower than 2017 due to the police grant that we got this year for computers in the vehicles. We don't anticipate that for next year. The reimbursement of damaged property is also not planned to be a revenue source for 2018 and would only be amended if damages were to happen. Going by each individual department within the general fund, we have the legislative, executive, and election departments, which remain constant over this year. Administration expenditures are anticipated to increase by approximately $10,000, mostly due to the rising health insurance costs. Buildings and grounds and judicial departments remain constant. Building expenditures are expected to decrease by approximately $16,000 due mostly to the computer grant and the repair of the police vehicle damages. Those are inflated this year. It's not part of our normal operating budget. So theirs would increase the amount of health insurance and salaries and then decrease the amount of the grant and the vehicle damages. The fire department is constant with $1 million dedicated to the fire department. Road expenditures are expected to decrease by approximately $169,000 due to a decrease in road paving. Seasonal help was increased, as well as general supplies and capital outlay for machinery. Road striping equipment and or possibly a bucket truck is going to be the main capital expenditures that we'd be looking for in roads, in addition to the remainder of our paving project that we have agreed to with the contractor that's just done the work for us. We have the rest of that contract remaining for next year. Special activities and events remain constant. Parks will have a newly established budget, a minimum amount of $5,750 for some maintenance. No capital outlay expenditures are identified in this budget. Unspent capital outlay at the end of this year for the park can be either reserved by the council for future improvements, or it will revert back to unreserved fund balance. Housing and development, which is our code enforcement and our planning and zoning, that remains constant, less the purchase of the vehicle that was bought this year. And economic development will also remain constant. Depreciation is being funded at $17,849 of the total $63,307. And that sums up the general fund. The budget provides for payroll and general fund, the water fund and solid waste, including 13 full-time employees, 1 regular part-time employee, 4 seasonal employees, and temporary employees as necessary, mainly in the police department. Proposed payroll includes a 3% increase for the 14 regular full-time and part-time employees, and that total aggregate amount is $15,005. The CPI for the Atlanta area is 3.5%, and it also increases seasonal employees by 2 at $10 an hour from May through October in the roads and solid waste department.
Okay, that's the general fund summary. What we are doing relative to depreciation is after we fund all of the operating expenditures, the remainder that's left, we're trying to get depreciation fully funding, and we're working on that every year, increasing it every year. We're not there yet in the general fund, but that's what we're working on trying to do. So, I'd like to open it up to comments from the public in opposition to the general fund budget.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
How far underfunded are we on depreciation?
In the general fund this year, we're funding, total depreciation is $63,307. Depreciation is funded at $17,849. So we're about a third of the way there. But like I said, we're increasing it every year as money is available in the budget. Good question. Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the general fund budget? David?
Not in opposition, but just a question. What is the total in the general fund, please?
Sure. Okay, total anticipated operating revenues are $1,176,500. We've got miscellaneous revenue of $13,000, which is mostly rent for the visitor center. And then we have other financing sources, including our hotel motel transfer, sale of assets, of $6,500 for a grand total revenue of $1,196,000. And then in appropriations, we have legislative department, $10,800, executive, $3,100. Legislative is your council, executive is your mayor. Elections, $4,790. General administration, $227,730. Buildings and grounds, $52,300. Judicial, $4,935. Police, $288,635. Fire, $58,731. Roads, $225,450. Special activities and events, $30,000. Parks, $5,750. Housing and development, $23,795. Economic development, $53,135. So our total operating expenditures are $989,151. And we have capital outlay plan in roads, equipment, $15,000, and property, which is our road paving, at $174,000. Total capital expenditures are $189,000. Depreciation at $17,849 for a grand total of $1,196,000.
Would you like this page? Thank you. I think I can probably get a copy. I just haven't had a chance to look at it. Thanks.
When will that be on the website?
It's already.
It's already on there. Okay, so I'm taking we don't have anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the budget. Do we want to have anyone who wants to speak in favor of the budget? So we have no one who wants to speak. We're going to move on to the water fund. And Linda, if you would give us a summary of the water fund budget.
Okay, water fund expenditures and revenues remain constant. There are no planned increases in rates and no planned increases in expenditures, with no planned capital expenditures. So our water fund depreciation is being funded at $41,910 of the total $175,292. We've got our total operating revenue in the water fund of $392,000, and no planned capital expenditures, so total of $392,000, and then expenses, maintenance and operations, $223,535. Our water system improvement debt service, $126,555. And then $41,910 for depreciation, for total appropriations of $392,000.
Do we have anyone who has a question or who would like to speak in opposition to the water fund budget? Do we have anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Oh, sorry, come with me.
Quick question. What is the structure of the debt service on the water system? And how long does that have to run?
It's a 20-year loan.
It started,
Started,
About 8 years? Yeah, about 12 left. They have 12 left on it.
and not trying to hold you to the exact date. Right?
Any further comment on the water fund, for or against? Okay, moving on to solid waste. Linda, if you would give a summary of solid waste budget.
okay, again, no increases in rates are planned. Our revenues all remain at 193,200. We've got sale of our wood chips for $150 for total operating revenues of $193,350. Expenditures, maintenance and operations, we have $181,750, and $11,600 is reserved for depreciation, for total appropriations of $193,350. Depreciation in the solid waste department is being fully funded at $11,600.
Do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the solid waste fund budget? Do we have anyone who would like to speak in favor of the solid waste fund budget? Then we're moving on to the hotel motel fund. Linda, if you give a summary of that.
All right, hotel motel, we get a hotel motel tax on your rentals of the homes in Sky Valley. We are budgeting $10,000 for total revenues, and then expenditures, 40% of that we contract with the Raven County Tourism Development Authority for $4,000, and then 60% of that goes to the city's general fund, which can offset our economic development activities, or any activities for that matter. But that's the amount of $6,000 for a total appropriations of $10,000.
Do you have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the hotel motel fund budget? Do we have anyone who would like to speak in favor of the hotel motel fund budget? Yes, Will.
Based on my close personal working relationship with the TDA chair, I can tell you the money that goes to TDA for hotel motel is probably one of the biggest bargains in our entire budget.
Totally agree. There's no telling what their total budget is, which is mostly funded through the other municipalities in the county. I don't know what it is currently, but it's a lot.
I can give you all the details.
Maybe when she comes to accept her proclamations, you can tell us. Okay, is there any further comment? We have concluded the public hearing on the budget, and yes,
One more
Doug.
question. I heard the funded depreciation question, so what are the reserves at the end of the budget period? What are the reserves of the city at this current time? And that's probably a financial statement.
Sure, let me grab it. Okay, as of the end of September, in the general fund, we have $1,046,578, of which in the end of last year, we had $894,921 in unassigned fund balance, $3,536 in restricted fund balance, and $69,862 in assigned fund balance. In the water fund, we have, at the end of last year, we had unrestricted funds of $779,307. And we have a checking account balance right now in the enterprise checking, which includes water and solid waste of $890,309.
Thank you.
Of the $1,046,000 in the general fund balance, that's through the end of September, but there are commitments already made that will be reducing that through the end of this year. And also, we've committed on paving for next year. As a matter of fact, what we had planned is to never go below 600,000, but the council a few months ago approved additional paving to include an appropriation for next year to commit about another $284,000 to paving. So that will reduce that fund balance situation. Any further questions of any kind?
Well, let me just back up on that real quick. The total that we have left on our contract with the paving crew, not including the additional that we approved today, is $174,000.
Okay. Does that include?
That's everything.
So you've already, through September, we had paid everything for this year?
No. What I'm saying is for next year's paving is $174,000.
Right,
total.
but we still have a commitment for the rest of this year that hasn't
Yeah,
been
I
paid.
mean, most of the revenues for the city come in, actually before the beginning of the year, because we collect the taxes
I was
usually.
trying to do in my head the percentage of reserves against your annual budget, and you just,
Right.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the year, we have expenditures for the rest of the year and very, very little income. So all of our expenditures will come out of that 1 million that we've got in the bank. So we should end up around the 600.
Our preliminary calculations were after everything, including the expenditures for October, November, and December, which are not included yet, which will be there with no revenue to offset it, that will be somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000. If there's no further comment of any kind, we will end the public hearing on the budget. And please come back on November 14th for the approval. Will, you got a question?
General comment, I think y'all done an outstanding job annually running things as well as they are. The funding appreciation, while it can easily put you to sleep late at night, is one of the most valuable things that I think has happened. Puts us even on a more solid footing, having that in place. And I'd just like to commend y'all for that.
Thank you. Okay, the budget hearing is adjourned.